Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting for a few people to join and we'll begin. Okay, just while we're waiting, I'm going to send out a poll. So if you could answer that as soon as possible, that'd be fantastic, and we'll get on with the webinar very soon. Okay, so we'll begin now. Morning and thank you for joining. My name is Paige. I'm the Marketing Executive here at Conosco. Welcome to today's webinar, Microsoft Azure 101, Your Journey to the Cloud. You'll be hearing from a couple of speakers today. We have Ilias, Conosco's Director of Professional Services, and Sam, a Senior Global Solution Architect at Microsoft. And the webinar will run for roughly 45 minutes. If you have any questions, please put them into the chat box below and we'll make sure we answer them at the end of the session. We'll also be recording the session, so you'll have a chance to look back over it if you need to. So to begin then, Ilias, would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I have worked on the MSP market for more than 10 years. Conosco is my fourth MSP, and I've been with them for about 6 years now. I have extensive knowledge and experience on infrastructure and cloud migrations, and I'm very privileged to lead the team of cloud migration experts here at Conosco.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ilias. And Sam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam. I work for Microsoft as a global solution architect. So I look after partners who work with customers, basically. I joined Microsoft recently in January 2020, before the pandemic. I came from another MSP partner. And I was working on few accounts around, well, small and large accounts. So I've seen everything to do with Azure in the last 5 years, the evolution, and I'm here to share some of that journey with you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sam. So Ilias, we'll come back to you then. What insights can you share into how cloud computing is changing business?
Well, I think until a few years ago, nobody would believe that these days, with a click of a button, you can deploy a server in Hong Kong while you're sitting at your office in London. It will only take a couple of minutes for the server to be up and running, and it will probably just cost you a couple of £100, which is pretty amazing. The cloud has enabled small businesses to be able to afford and take advantage the same level of technologies, infrastructure, and security as large enterprises. And this is a major competitive advantage. In the cloud, you only pay for what you use. So you don't need servers to be waiting on the site, expensive resources unutilized anymore. You just choose what you want. And then when you're done with it, you delete it and you stop paying for it. Now, lastly, because the cloud providers are responsible for the maintenance of the infrastructure, businesses these days do require less IT staff to be employed.
Brilliant. And how are we at Conosco supporting these changes?
As a Microsoft Gold partner, Conosco's experience with helping businesses with a journey to the cloud. There is no one size fits all for us, and different business has different targets and needs. Architecting the appropriate cloud solution can be a very complex task. And when we design these solutions, we take consideration on cost optimization, reliability, business continuity, security, and of course, performance. Now, we do follow Microsoft's cloud adoption framework when we work with our customers. And we start by defining the strategy. So what are the motivations? What does the business try to achieve? What are the desired outcomes? And of course, is there a business justification for moving to the cloud? After we are comfortable with these questions, then we move on to design the solution. We start by auditing the digital estate, and then from there, we create the cloud adoption plan. Now, the next step will be to migrate and modernize the infrastructure. And depending on the size of the infrastructure, that can take from months to years. When we finish with the migration, we then continue to monitor the estate and we make further cost optimizations. Now, as a final part, our support services is something that can take care of the ongoing maintenance and monitoring of the infrastructure.
Okay, brilliant. And the key question then, how is Azure making businesses more innovative?
Of course. So Azure is providing businesses with numerous managed services that completely take care of the infrastructure and removing the need for IT experts. And I will give you two different examples. As a developer these days, you can go to Azure and take advantage of services that you just upload your code and Azure will completely take care of the deployment of the infrastructure. So you worry about your code while Azure will take care of the deployment of your application. And then on the other side, you may have people that have never done any coding, they have no development experience, that they're able to create complex automations and integrations between different applications, again, with services that Azure is providing. However, I'm going to let Sam explain further all of these.
Right. Well, hello, everyone, again. So I'll take you through the journey to the cloud in a simple kind of terms. I'll explain how we can help you, how Conosco can help you as well as you start approaching or started thinking about your strategy into the cloud. So, and I'll take you through it through this few slides. So the first thing I want to speak to you about is during this economic climate and the time of uncertainty, the biggest learning that no business is immune to crisis. So no organization is 100% resilient. But it has also taught us the digital business and those fortified with some digital capabilities that have been able to pivot some rapidly respond to their customer needs. And one of them is like, how did we help the NHS? How did we help those first responders to stay on top and basically help the population as well? So, and the next thing is basically resilience. That's what it is. That's what we thrive for. And is the ability to adapt very quickly to the changing conditions that has become the hallmark of success to today's environment. So, and as you go through these slides, basically, you'll see how we've actually started distinguishing our services, how we started positioning ourselves to help you as a customer and to support our partners to make sure that you succeed as well. So, so basically, we look at today's problems. So what's today basically is the challenge that we have is the silos with information. There are, you've got so much information and there is an explosion of information around, and how people look at these information and how you can digest and how you can analyze them as well is very important, and to make the business critical decisions around them as well. So I talk from scenarios where I've seen things on the field now, where they come to us and say, right, okay, I want to see an end-to-end and how is my service being utilized? Who is it being utilized by? At which region? Where are my customers? How can I target them as well? All this analytics actually can be driven from our platform. So, and you can bring all these capabilities, the analytics, the intelligence into very colorful flash, like dashboards. Basically, you can use Power BI, and we'll talk about this in a second as well. So, and you can drive a lot of your decisions according to that, and you can make those immediate decisions. So, so that's basically take me to the narrative. So all our customers, they look into how they can utilize the intelligence, the data, to start looking at the digital feedback loop. And this is something that we've been working on. So with the intelligence at the core, establishing digital feedback loop is how organization can transform. So they can become resilient and unlock new value for their customers. And for them to be successful, organization need the capability to digitally connect every facet of their business, from the customers to their employees and their operation to products. So historically, customers have faced difficult trade-off where have chosen solution to address their needs and to create digital feedback loop. So basically, do they have chosen the right, have they chose various option solution, which may be best for breed and powerful yet disconnected from each other? So that's where the silo came into play. And that's what we're trying to address here. So customers should not have made the trade-off when choosing solution to drive their digital transformation. So they need to be connected. Effective solution offering depth, best of breed, and cohesive, best of suite of transformation solution to become more resilient in today's environment. And that's a must for us when we come and approach a solution, when we look at services and how we can modernize, how we can innovate together. So what's Microsoft Cloud? Microsoft Cloud is basically, it's Microsoft Azure on top of, running on commodity hardware. So we have our own operating environment, and you have things like GitHub, Microsoft Power Platform, Microsoft 365, which you might know as Office 365, LinkedIn, which everybody uses, and Microsoft Dynamics as well. So all of these, utilizes the power of Microsoft Azure at the compute side, and the global reach that we can reach our customers and our partners as well. And the main thing when we started looking at designing our Microsoft Cloud is looking at how we can make sure that security is a pillar, is a foundation of our services. So we're not just looking at the physical security of our data centers, but we also look at how your data is secured within our infrastructure. So, for example, there are things like compliance and governance policies that you might be, abide by, and you need to follow these in terms of which region you operate in. For example, you don't want your data to travel outside of your EU, and we can make sure that data stays where it should stay, but it's also protected. So, and that's why we give you the scale, but we also give you the compliance and governance. And we'll talk about this in a second as well. So why Azure? It's because we have the ability to enable anyone of all grounds and for any company to do more and achieve more. And ultimately invent with a purpose. And that's what we use all the time, is this motto is we invent with a purpose, with you guys, with customers, with partners. And that's a statement around how we feel about Azure ourselves. And we want to invent with a purpose in how we think about it and what we deliver to you, but also enable you to invent with a purpose. And we do that in some key ways as well. And I'll talk about that in a sec as well. So these are some of our partners or some of our customers, and we've been fortunate to have over 95% of companies inventing with Azure, and they are all of all sizes, in all shapes and sizes, basically. So we're talking about the key points when it comes to Azure. We are global. So as I mentioned earlier, we have 63 Azure regions around the globe. And that is basically, these are regions, not data centers. So in each region, you might have multiple data centers. It could be 2 or 3 data centers. And that's to give you the resilience within that region. And also they are secure. And we do feel that protecting your data, your assets is essential from our perspective. So that's where our Microsoft cybersecurity team work around the clock. We actually triage over 6.5 trillion signals daily. So our platform is actually learning from them, and we use AI, machine learning at the back end to actually look at new threats and how we can protect against the new threats. And lastly, you'll have a look at the compliance offerings that our platform offers as well globally, and within the US or within an industry. So that's a very important piece for us. So yeah, we talked about the secure foundation. So I'm not going to, go into depth in here, but as I said, is from the security practice from our side is we don't just secure our on-premise, data centers physically, but we can't even get to them. Basically, I'm not allowed to. I have to be, first have to be security cleared. And I have to go through so many, approvals to be able to get into it. So it's not easy to get to actually have access to it as a first thing. But also, the data, your data, is separated from other customers as well. We use our platform. Our platform can manage that centrally, so nobody can see each other's data. Or even the network flow is segregated across the platform. One of the things that I wanted to mention here is the differences when it comes to, especially coming from an on-premise data center into the cloud, and what does that journey look like in a sense. Some companies, some businesses, they look at utilizing infrastructure as a service. As you can see on the left-hand side, the far left-hand side is like you manage everything when it comes to on-premise. You manage your racks, you manage your networking, your switches, your storage, your servers, up to all the way to your application. So you have, a lot of things to manage, but what we do as you start migrating gradually into the cloud, we take care of some of that tiering for you. So from Microsoft Azure, we look after all the way up to the virtualization layer. So you can create the VMs, but you'll be responsible for patching those VMs. So we'll be responsible for patching the underlying hypervisors, and you'll be responsible for patching the OS. It could be Linux or could be Windows, and everything on top of that. But then as we start moving through the tier, is you look at the platform as a service. Platform as a service is a new way of looking at innovation, is kind of taking some of the load that your IT personnel have currently and trying to, focus on other areas like innovation and modernization, creating better services and focusing on areas that you can make impact with your customers. So you only worry about your data. You're concerned about what you do with your data and your application. And then you go into SaaS. And the SaaS platform is things like, one of the products is, for example, Microsoft 365. You don't need to basically worry about everything else. Is your data, you use it and you pay a subscription. And use it as you like, basically, and there is no platform to manage from that perspective. So I'll start talking about some of the Azure services. So when we start talking about cloud, we look at the pillars. The main pillars when it comes to it is identity, security, storage, networking, and compute. So that's the basis of everything that we build. If it's an IaaS solution, an infrastructure as a service, it could be a platform as a service, or even like a software as a service. So as you can see from this slide, of course, this is like a subsection, and this is only the headers. There are numerous, over 1,000 of services underneath these. So if you look at the serverless, for example, the web apps, you don't need to create a VM that runs your web hosting. You can create a web service or a web, like a web service, to run on top of our service, and you just manage the code, and you don't need to worry about the underlying layer, the patching, and all that stuff, and even the resilience of that could be taken care of. And data analytics is the next piece, which is as I said initially, is the biggest driver for us, especially for FY21. Now everybody is going to the cloud. They want to have more. They want to see what's going on with their services. They want to have more kind of visibility of what's going on with their services, their health. It could be their not just health, but it could be like, for example, how well they're doing in one region comparing to others. And you can drive so much of that from our data analytics, because we have like a global platform, and it's a scalable platform. And as Ilias was saying initially, is basically you pay for what you use. There is a SKU, and you provision a SKU, and you use it. It's a per hour billing as well, and so you use it for an hour, for example, you shut it down or you delete the resource. That's it. You only pay for the hour. So, and the same thing for the edge. Well, we're looking for the edge devices. We wanted to extend Azure to your on-premise as well, or to the edge, where there are capabilities like mobile applications, where it needs a speedy response. So you can create things like, you can have things running there like a Stack Hub and Stack Edge, where you can run subset of our services, like, for example, like machine intelligence, AI, on your on-premise, and even like Azure SQL, for example, which is a PaaS service running on-premise, and it's running on the Azure Stack devices, and you can manage them still from Azure. So you've got a central management for all these devices and central governance when it comes to it as well. And so that takes me to the hybrid approach. A lot of companies as well look at how they can utilize the hybrid approach to managing their on-premise infrastructure. So one of the things that here we talk about is Arc, is Azure Arc. Azure Arc brings that compliance, all the policies that you put through Azure into your on-premise. So as an example, if you're running like a Kubernetes cluster on-premise, then you can manage that Kubernetes cluster, and you can create it, you can pull it as a resource into Microsoft Azure, and you can manage all the policies that you apply, like from RBAC into, for example, update policies, into like security and governance when it comes to data. You can apply it into that, and you can manage it from a central pane of glass. And that makes it easier for companies to to innovate, to know what's happening with their services as well, and to grow. So and you can extend that into now 5G to come into play as well, and we start seeing a lot of customers using 5G as part of this. So we spoke a little bit about Power BI. What Power BI gives you is the visibility into your data, is the analytics piece that sits on top of our analytical system. So our system will have a look at your data, will analyze, will pull all the metrics that you want to visualize, and Power BI, it can bring all this into life for you. So with Power BI, there is no need to move your data. So we'll meet you where you are, and it's a business intelligence analytics SaaS service, and Power BI equips business users to directly connect and gain insight from their business data. So that's the whole perspective of that. So let me see what time it is. Yeah. So so the next piece is let's talk about how we optimize our operations. And this is your operations. How can you leverage all these functionalities, all these devices and services from Azure, and how you can use them to your benefit? So it's optimizing operation no longer just happens on one system at a time. It's connected insights and data and intelligence from one system. It can be used to optimize the outcome or process with another system. With connected intelligence business system, you can reshape customer relationships, service models, backend operations, and internal processes, making continuous real-time improvements as you go along. So one of the things here that need to bring into play is the Azure Synapse Analytics. So, so Microsoft Cloud helps organization to enable a continuous flow of data, insights, and actions across businesses. So the Azure Synapse offers limitless analytics services that brings together enterprise data, warehousing, big data analytics. So unmatched in speed, it leverages deep integration with Power BI, Azure machine learning to greatly expand insights, discovery from all your data and apply machine learning models to all your intelligent apps. This significantly will reduce project development time for BI and machine learning projects, leading to rapid data-driven decision making an overall operational efficiencies, basically. The other part we just talked in detail about is the interconnected nature of Microsoft Cloud. It enables customers to achieve each of the key outcomes compromising their digital feedback loop. So we want to make sure that we empower employees with connected collaboration. We engage with customers with connected experiences. We're transforming products with connected innovations, and we're optimizing operation with connected insights. So that's the whole purpose, and this is how we can help you here. So one of the things as well that a lot of customers say, okay, tell me more about security and tell me how Microsoft can help me to lift the posture of my, lift the security posture of my infrastructure. So as I said initially, our platform is built on identity pillar, security pillar, and these are the foundations of our infrastructure. So we can help organizations establish secure and compliant digital feedback loop due to our experience, innovation, and scale. So, and believe it or not, like we invest $1 billion annually, this is $1 billion annually in security. We have two teams within Microsoft. We call them the blue team and the red team. They always look at vulnerabilities and how we can close those gaps, basically. So we use the power of our platform to really look into the data that we get from the signals that we get from all our platforms alike. So for example, Azure, we use Azure Sentinel and Microsoft Threat Protection to triage all this data and basically come up with a response quick enough at a scale, at the cloud scale, which basically no on-premise service can basically compete against. So basically, Microsoft integrated comprehensive offering can help organization adopt, that's what we call the zero trust security strategy, critical in today's distributed multi-platform hybrid cloud technology world. Extend identity, as I spoke about that, security and compliance coverage across people, devices, apps, developer tools, data, and infrastructure. Our universal platform for managing and securing identities create the foundation of the entire experience. And this is very important as well. So Microsoft Threat Protection helps stop us attacks and protects your assets with integrated and automated security that empowers your defenders to work efficiently. It integrates natively with the Azure Sentinel, which is our SIEM tool. It's a cloud native SIEM tool, the world first cloud, native SIEM tool, and basically the event manager. They can help you secure your data and stop to manage those threats that we see on a daily basis across clouds and multiple devices. So it doesn't just manage your infrastructure or your data within Azure. We look at cross clouds and we look at your on-premise as well. And you can bring all that intelligence through Azure Sentinel. And that's a very big piece for us as well. So let's talk about the journey, what the journey looks like from that perspective. So when we start talking to customers and partners and how we engage them together, we look at our cloud adoption framework, which is a very important piece as well during this stage of migration and innovation. which I'll speak about cloud adoption in a second, in the next slide. But basically, what we see is a lot of customers, they are very comfortable by migrating, for example, their services as a lift and shift, which is what's showing here as migrate, is lift and shift, moving their services across. And basically then looking at how they can look at their services and optimize. It can be optimizing for cost, which is a big driver as well, because we can make sure we are very certain that you're going to cut a lot of your costs, operation cost basically, and running cost by just doing the migration itself, because we're not going to take the VM as it is, or we're not going to take the machine as it is and move it across. We're going to look at how the behavior of the VM, the behavior of the service, and we'll size it appropriately. And sometimes, and 9 out of 10, those sizes actually, the VM is only being utilized 5% of the time, even though you're running it on hypervisors, other hypervisors. So we pick the right SKUs and the right sizes for your VMs. And then after, you look at how we can go from having it as an infrastructure as a service, which is a normal VM, into a serverless. Serverless, make sure that, well, enables your developers to really think and how they can innovate with our services. They look at, think about code rather than actually a virtual machine. Because our serverless is a global scale. It gives you that flexibility to globally scale, to scale on demand as well. You don't need to worry about provisioning multiple VMs, but it just lets you grow at your own pace. And there is the code and low code, and this is a very important piece as well when it comes to Power Platform. Power Platform, you can build applications with no code, and we've seen a lot of customers started utilizing these. People who have business ideas, but they have no coding, or they have no developers basically in-house. So how they can start putting those ideas together? They're using our Power Platform to build these services, and requires no code at all in some instances. So I said, Microsoft have developed the cloud adoption framework. We've been using, this is a framework that we've been using with customers. We've tried it with many customers, and it proved very successful. So basically what we do is starts with a definition of expected business outcomes and business justification to move to the cloud. So we work with you. You work with your partners as well, like Conosco here in this, where you bring your partner to align with your strategy. What's your strategy to move to the cloud? You want to scale. You want to have the global reach. What is your purpose of going to the cloud? And when you align, you start looking, what's the next piece? So with this framework, you'll be able to define your migration strategy. Based on your needs, plan it out, ready, make sure your organization is ready and your people are ready as well, all while having the proper cloud operation practices in place. So the governance, the management, the key elements, generating a cycle where constant optimization and change management take place. So as you start thinking about your strategy, and as your partner get engaged with you, they build all these capabilities into the platform. So when you start migrating across, you have all the security, all the governance and compliance in place without having to think again about each of the workloads. So the main thing is, as I said, is the defining a strategy is the core piece within our CAF adoption framework. When you migrate to Azure, of course, we're talking to customers, and it gives you like the Azure migration, for example, the Azure migration plan. It gives you perspective, guidance for a step-by-step approach to cloud migration. AMP, we call it, offers the opportunity to work closely with Microsoft experts and specialized migration partners to simplify and accelerate your migration. So basically the program delivers technical skills building, Azure engineering support for data and infrastructure foundations, expert guidance from specialized migration partners, free Azure tools, and cost-effective offers. So to help you save money before, during, and after migrations. So, and these are some of the tools and the programs that we have into place. So I'll pass on now to Ilias to talk about the case scenarios.
Thank you, Sam. What we are going to do is talk about 3 different case studies, challenges that some of our customers had, and how did we use Azure to help them overcome them. So case study number 1 was a web server migration to Azure Cloud. The challenge was we had a customer that had clients all around the world, and these clients, they had to download large files from their web server. This web server was located in the UK, so you can imagine that clients in China, the US, were experiencing poor download speeds, and of course, a poor customer experience. They were complaining about the level of service they were getting. We also had 2 more challenges. The first one was security concerns. These servers were hosted on a legacy data center that couldn't give the same security features as Azure does. And platform reliability issues. There was a lot of downtime throughout the years. One reason was a wrong architecture. If you can see from the diagram here, there is no automatic failover if the main server goes down. But also, again, this legacy data center couldn't offer the reliability levels and services that Azure can provide. Now, the solution was to re-architect the solution, the infrastructure, and move it to Azure. We managed to improve customer experience, regardless to where these clients were based, by taking advantage of Azure's content delivery network. And what that really means is that Azure can identify where your clients that are trying to download these files are based, and it will automatically move the data to a data center closer to them. So that will provide them with much better download speeds and experience. Now, by re-architecting the solution and taking advantage of Azure's application gateway, we were able to enhance the security, but also the reliability and the redundancy of the solution. And we're also able to automatically make it adapt to current traffic loads. Now, what Azure Application Gateway does is it's a load balancer from the one side. What that really means is that it takes requests, then monitors the usage of the web service and just routes the request to the one that's least utilized. But on the other side, it also hides a very powerful advanced firewall. Now, as a last step, what we did is we managed to cost optimize the solution by taking advantage of Azure Autoscaling. What autoscaling does, again, it is monitoring the usage of your web service. And if all of a sudden you get multiple users connecting, it will automatically deploy new web servers to deal with the traffic load. And as soon as the usage goes down to normal, it will delete the service and you will start paying for the services. The second case study was about business continuity and disaster recovery. Now, this is a very typical scenario. A customer has a primary data center and they require to have a secondary failover that has exactly the same expensive hardware, paying for the data center cost, internet connectivity, you name it. It's a very complex and expensive solution to implement. It's a very high cost for deploying, monitoring, patching, and maintaining, and it requires highly skilled staff to do so. Now, the solution to that was to move the business continuity and disaster recovery solution to Azure. We used Azure Site Recovery Manager. Sam, if you don't mind, can you just move? Yeah, thank you. So what we did is we managed to achieve significant savings while delivering the same results by using Azure Site Recovery. Now, Azure Site Recovery is a business continuity and disaster recovery solution managed by Microsoft. It's very easy to maintain and it's very easy to implement. As you can see from the diagram, all you really have to do is connect Azure to your VMware, Hyper-V, your physical servers. It doesn't matter if it's Windows or Linux, and Azure will automatically replicate the service to the cloud. Now, the great thing about this solution is that you only pay for when you use it. When you think of having a data center, you pay for the failover data center all the time. While with this solution, you pay a small fee per server per month and the data that you use. And then the rest, you will only pay for the resources in the event of a disaster recovery scenario. Now, what we have seen with this solution, that's a great first step on your journey to the cloud. There's a lot of clients that they still do not fully trust the cloud or do not understand the cloud, and moving your business continuity there, it's a great first step. Now, the third and last case study has to do with the truly global infrastructure with Azure. We had a client, there's a global organization with probably more than 100 offices around the world in 46 countries. There was only one data center, though, in the UK to accommodate for all of them. There were challenges with security and data compliances. And of course, there was poor performance and employee experience when using the systems. You had people from all over the world having to connect to the UK in order to perform a lot of their everyday duties. Now, the solution was, of course, to use Azure's data centers around the globe. If you can see from the map, and Sam did show a similar map before, you can pretty much find a data center everywhere. So, of course, by deploying the servers and migrating them closer to where these employees were based, we were able to enhance their experience, and we were able to meet more granular data compliances and regulations because the data were now moved to locations closer to them and to specific countries. And of course, lastly, we were able to enhance security by taking advantage of Azure's advanced security features. And that's it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ilias. Yeah, I mean, as I said, when it comes to Azure, there is no small. When it comes to customers, there is the small and the large, and depending on what you see Azure, you know, from the value perspective, from the business value, is very important, and that's why your strategy becomes a key when you start driving adoption of the cloud. So I'm sharing with you here our Microsoft Learn. So basically this takes you through, there are hundreds of learning paths. As you know, there are so many available and they're all completely free. So you can sign up with an MSA account, a Microsoft account, and start utilizing those. Some of them are tutorials, which takes you in depth, and there are certain levels, it comes at different levels, and they're all interactive. So you can do it at your own pace. Yeah, so basically we're trying to help you through the process, and this is why we partner with like of Conosco here, to trying to make sure that their expertise can bring you the business value, can bring the people who can, you know, can shape up your adoption journey, and can shape up your strategy as well when it comes to it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Ilias. I just have a couple of quick questions for us to finish on. Sam, if I can come to you, how does Azure fit in with the Microsoft security stack?
So as I said in my one of my slides, and actually many of my slides, is Azure is built on security. It's not just the physical security, but it's also, we look at security, you know, from Office 365, so the intelligence that we get, all the signals that we get from all the Microsoft stack. So it could be Dynamics 365, M365, LinkedIn, GitHub, and we analyze this data and we make sure that we bring a lot of that intelligence so we can track any, you know, like incidents. We can respond to these incidents very quickly. And also we have teams, as I said earlier, using this zero trust approach, is we have teams who constantly looking at this data, who constantly triaging this, using our own tools like Azure Sentinel, and to bring all these intelligence into play, and we can, you know, respond very quickly to it.
Fantastic, thank you. And why would we select Azure versus another major cloud provider?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Paige. I mean, Azure, because of, you know, our scale, global scale, we have more regions than any other provider. That's one of the things that I need to bring into play, and we continually, you know, continuously growing when it comes to it. We understand where our customers are, and we understand what they require. That's why we started opening far more, you know, Azure regions than all other providers. From the cost perspective, we run much less when it comes to it, and we are, you know, when you look at the environment as well, we're looking at ways to become like, when it comes like to, I think 2025, we're going to be CO2 negative. So we thrive to not just give you the service, but as well support our initiative with the environment, protecting the environment as well. So, and when it comes to it, if you look at the like for like and you bring a VM into Azure or onto other providers and you look at the cost of running it, you'll see that running in Azure is at least 60% cheaper. You can bring your own licenses there as well. I'm sure a lot of you run Windows platforms and you have Windows domains. You can bring all these licenses into Azure and you can utilize them for fraction of the cost when it comes to it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. And thank you everyone for joining today. As I mentioned at the start, we're going to be recording this session and we'll send it out to you after so you can catch up on anything that you want to look over again. But thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.